Ugh, that check engine light. There's nothing worse, right? That little light pops on and your mind just starts racing. What's wrong? Is this going to be expensive? Well, hey, if you're driving a Honda and you're seeing the code P1684, take a deep breath. We're going to break down exactly what that code means and, more importantly, how you can actually fix it. Let's turn that worry into a solid plan. So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to decode what P1684 is even talking about. Then, we'll hunt down the two most common culprits. After that, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step fix. We'll wrap up with some final checks, and by the end, you'll have a clear, simple action plan to get that light off and get your car back on the road. All right, first things first, let's figure out what your Honda is actually trying to tell you. See, that P1684 code isn't just some random error. Nope, it's a super specific message from your car's brain. And it's basically the first big clue in our little investigation. Yep, that light on your dash is our starting point. It's a signal that something is off in one very specific system in your engine, and it's our job to figure out which one. Okay, so here's the official technical name: throttle valve return spring performance problem. I know, that sounds really complicated, right? But all it really means is that your car's computer has noticed something's not quite right with the system that lets air into your engine. And honestly, that's great news because it narrows our search down a lot. Now, your car's computer, it's called the PCM by the way, is incredibly precise. It doesn't just throw this code out randomly. It only happens when a very specific set of conditions are all met at the exact same time. The ignition has to be off, the battery needs enough juice, the engine's got to be warm, and that throttle valve has to be stuck at a weird angle for at least 3 seconds. This level of detail, that's our biggest advantage. And here's one of those key conditions right here. The car's computer won't even bother to run this diagnostic test unless the engine coolant is at least 158 degrees Fahrenheit. Just remember that number. It's a really important piece of the puzzle, and we're going to circle back to why it matters in a little bit. Okay, so we know the what and the when. Now it's time to find the why. When it comes to this specific code, there are really only two main culprits, and if we focus on them, we can save you a whole lot of time and money. And you know what? The source material couldn't be clearer on this. Seriously, like 9 times out of 10, the problem is going to be one of two things. Either it's a simple, bad electrical connection, or the throttle body itself has gone bad. So this lays out our whole strategy. We're going to start with the most likely, and thankfully the easiest thing to fix, the electrical connections. This could be something as simple as a loose wire, which is often a free fix. Only after we are 100% sure the connections are good will we even think about replacing a part. Always, always start with the simple stuff first. All right, you ready? Time to get our hands dirty. This next part is our step-by-step diagnostic procedure. We're just going to follow a clear, logical path to find out what's really going on and get this thing fixed for good. Our plan of attack is a simple 2-step process, but listen, the order is absolutely critical here. First, we're going to do a really thorough inspection of all the electrical connections. Then, only if that checks out, we'll move on to the throttle body itself. So for step 1, I want you to be a detective. You're going to need to check the connectors at both the car's main computer, the PCM, and the throttle body. Look really close for any corrosion. It kind of looks like green or white fuzzy stuff. Check for any bent pins or damage. And here's the big one. Give each connector a little wiggle to make sure it's clicked in all the way. You would be amazed how often this simple check fixes the entire problem. Okay, so if you've done a really good inspection and everything is clean, tight, and looks totally undamaged, well, then we can confidently cross bad connections off our list. And that means we know exactly what our next step is. At this point, all signs are pointing to a bad throttle body. Now, when you go to replace it, please do not cut corners. Use a quality part that meets the original factory specs. A cheap part can just fail on you again in a few months, and you'll be right back where you started. Make sure the new one is installed securely and all those connectors are clicked in tight. So once the main repair is done, whether you fixed a wire or replaced the whole part, we're not quite finished. There are just a couple of final details we need to check to make absolutely sure that code doesn't come back to haunt you. Hey, remember those really specific trigger conditions we talked about at the beginning? Well, now we have to make sure the systems related to those conditions are working like they should. This just means a quick check of the ignition switch and the engine's coolant level. So remember, the car runs this whole diagnostic test when the key is in the lock or 0 position. If the ignition switch itself is kind of wonky or misaligned, the car's computer might be getting a false signal, which can mess with the diagnostics. It's a super quick check and it's totally worth doing. And here it is. This is where that temperature clue comes back into play. The test needs the engine to be warm, right? If your coolant is low, the engine might not get up to the right temperature reliably. That could stop the system from clearing the code properly or running its self-check. So yeah, just pop the hood and take a quick look at the coolant reservoir. It's a crucial final step. Okay, let's put everything we just talked about into one simple final action plan. This is your roadmap to go from that stressful check engine light to a totally clear dashboard. And here it is, your troubleshooting checklist. Priority number 1, check those connections at the PCM and the throttle body. Look for anything loose or corroded. Priority 2, and only if the connections are perfect, replace the throttle body with a good quality part. And finally, priority 3, do a final check on your coolant level and your ignition switch. Just follow those 3 steps in that exact order and you're going to solve this problem. So you see, that intimidating P1684 code, it's not so mysterious after all, is it? With a clear, methodical approach and a little bit of detective work, you now have the knowledge and the plan to diagnose it and fix it yourself. So, you ready to solve this puzzle?